We're live from Dr. Pink Stadium in Frisco, Texas, and USA Ultimate is proud to present the 2014 USA Ultimate National Championship and a mixed semifinal between the Chad Larson Experience out of Ames, Iowa, and Minneapolis Dragon Thrust. A look at our Final Four in the mixed division as we see the CLX team up against the Dragon Thrust here. The other wild card matchup, well, Boston wild card against Seattle mixed in the other semifinal matchup. And, of course, the winners play tomorrow in the championship game. Alongside Evan Leffler, the voice of Ultimate, I'm Wayne Brandazzo. And, Evan, here we are, national championship on the line this weekend.
It has been a shocking weekend of crazy developments here in Frisco. You saw the 9 seed and the 12 seed in the other semi. This one we've gotten the 2 and the 3, and these teams know each other well. A rematch of the North Central Regional Final. You may have noticed no San Francisco teams are in the semis. It's a different flavor in the mixed division this year.
The Chad Larson Experience, they certainly are comfortable with big games, but last year eliminated in the quarterfinal.
Eliminated in the quarters each of the last 3 years. Before that, they made the semis nearly year in, year out. Never won a national title, though. They were the world champs in Prague in 2010. Founded by Kevin Sealer in 2003. He's coached the Iowa State women for a while, and he is a guy who really has brought the Iowa State flavor into this program. He's still got some game, too. He'll be defending Dragon Thrust big guy James Franck.
Dragon Thrust doesn't lose very often, especially in games like this. They won the national championship last year. They won the world championship back in August.
That was in Lecco, Italy. They took down the Polar Bears in the final. Minneapolis Dragon Thrust really broke through last year here in Frisco. Jake Henderson's done a phenomenal job coaching this team. He's had so many ACL injuries he can't play anymore, but he's the brainchild on the sidelines. And we mentioned James Franck. This guy has just been a dynamic deep threat for Dragon Thrust for years and years. Universe point against Blackbird in quarters. What'd they do? 50-50 disc. Franck versus World Games player Mac Taylor. James Franck came down with a disc. Dragon Thrust came down with a win. And now they're 1 game away from the finals.
It's a beautiful day here in Frisco, Texas. It's been a great tournament so far. The national championships will be decided this weekend. The mixed semifinal is next. The Chad Larson Experience out of Ames, Iowa. Dragon Thrust from Minneapolis. We'll start it off in just a moment. The 2014 USA Ultimate Championships are brought to you by Discraft Ultrastar, the official disc of USA Ultimate. Ask your retailer today about Discraft Ultrastar. The Triple Crown Tour, America's most competitive and prestigious series of ultimate tournaments. And by USA Ultimate, the national governing body of the sport of ultimate in the United States. To learn more about USA Ultimate or to find out where to play in your area, visit usaultimate.org.
Guys, we're back.
Back here in Frisco, Texas, about to get started in this mixed semifinal between Minneapolis Dragon Thrust and the Chad Larson Experience. Both teams undefeated so far in this tournament, and a chance for Dragon Thrust to win their 2nd straight national championship, advance to the championship game tomorrow. You see the team from Ames with Megan Liu in there, one of the cutters, Cammie Nelson, Melissa Gibbs, and Kurt Brorson as well, Barrett Davis, Blake Larson, and Sarah Pesch for Kevin Sealer's team. Of course, Sealer, we'll see him on the field as well. On the other side, Dragon Thrust, Jay Drescher, Patty King, James Franck, Sarah Meckstroth, Erica Bacon, Jake McCain, and Austin Lean. The handlers there at the bottom for Jake Henderson's team.
We saw both O-lines on the graphic there. It'll be the D-line for CLX, led by Kevin Sealer, taking the field first against the offense, led by Austin Lean and James Franck, Jay Drescher, Sarah Meckstroth. Austin Lean, a huge handler for this team, and you know, CLX has talked to me about trying to limit him. They feel like he's sort of an unsung hero. He helps to make their offense go. They're going to really try to jam him and prevent him from getting easy resets in the backfield.
And the opening pull comes from the Chad Larson Experience. We are underway here in Frisco as this national championship weekend concludes with the semifinal matchups today, the championship games tomorrow. Minneapolis Dragon Thrust, already a world champion this year, trying to win their 2nd straight national title.
Well, it's the elusive double peak. That's one of the big storylines coming into the weekend. They won in Lecco, defeating the Polar Bears in the finals in Italy. Polar Bears knocked out in the pre-quarters, a shocking result for that San Francisco team after their tremendous track record. And now can Dragon Thrust do it again? Can they go back-to-back Worlds and Nationals, also back-to-back years at Nationals. That's the biggest storyline heading into this game. And then you have these two rivalries that have been friends and competitors against each other for so long.
The flick from Austin Lean finds some contact as Dragon Thrust edges closer to the red zone. James Ron really a dual threat. They could pass it and catch it. And Sarah Mextrod's got it now, looking for pay dirt, and the first score of the game belongs to Dragon Thrust as Jay Drescher pulls it down for Mextrod.
Drescher, much more of a defensive-minded player, but obviously pretty good offensively. He's got some huge backhand hucks. And as a cutter and as a defender, he's just a cannonball, throwing his body around. This is an easy sky over the CLX defender, Steph Jacobs.
Jay Drescher, really one of the more physical players that I've seen covering this sport this year. He really can mix it up.
He's a lot of fun to watch. He's very fiery and intense on the field. Brings some attitude that this Minneapolis team needs.
A Minnesota native. Jay Drescher getting on the board to start things off for Dragon Thrust. They got into this tournament with a very close victory, a narrow win over San Francisco Blackbird yesterday in the quarterfinals.
A game that really could have gone either way. It was Hran over Taylor on a universe point huck. Chatting with Coach Jake Henderson about it. I don't think the Dragon Thrust team was thrilled with the decision. They weren't, euphoric about the matchup. Mac Taylor, one of the most phenomenal defenders in the entire sport. But Hran had position, he had a step. He used his size to shield Taylor from the disc, and he made the two-handed catch to bring Dragon Thrust into the semis. Sarah Mextrod, by the way, threw that goal, her team-leading 11th assist for the tournament. Dragon Thrust really feels that they have the best women in the mixed game in Sarah Mextrod, the youngster from Minnesota.
And now the Chad Larson Experience with their first opportunity on offense. Some pretty interesting team names here, Evan. The Chad Larson Experience as they huck it out, looking for Nick Brorson. And it's Brorson right at the edge to flip it in. And Megan Liu finishes the point for the Chad Larson Experience.
Kurt Brorson to Megan Liu, two O-line stalwarts. And the Chad Larson Experience was an idea that began in 2003 after Kevin Sealer graduated from Iowa State. He and some other ISU alums wanted to put a mixed team together. You see this nice backhand huck to Brorson. He's going to be one of their steady recipients of deep shots all game long. So who is Chad Larson? That's the big question. He is a real person, and he lives in Austin, Texas, and rumor has it that he might be here tomorrow.
Is he related to Dr. Pink?
He could be, in the mythology of the Experience, perhaps. But Chad Larson went to high school with Kevin Sealer, and then they went to Iowa State together as well. And after graduating, Chad Larson, as we see Megan Liu, Chad Larson moved to Austin, Texas, where he was starting a mixed team, and Kevin Sealer was also starting a mixed team in Iowa, and they were both discussing names. And, when they had a meeting in Austin, Chad Larson suggested as a joke, how about we call it Chad's team? And the captain of that team in Austin, Texas said, Chad, no team named after you will ever be good.
Well, the Chad Larson Experience has been great so far in trying to win their first national championship. As we take a look at some of the rules, the basics here, 7 players on each side, first team to 15 wins. 8 goals breaks us to halftime. Disc can go anywhere, but players can't run with it. They only have 10 seconds to get rid of it. It's a largely self-officiated game, although we'll see those folks in orange get involved as well. And the teams do switch ends after each score.
Chad Larson basically relayed that story to Kevin Sealer, and Kevin told him, look, Chad, we're going to name our team after you. And they've been tremendously successful. The Chad Larson Experience has become CLX. And Blake Larson, not related to Chad Larson, as Dragon Thrust makes quick work of that offensive possession.
That didn't take long, and it's Patty King who gets the score for Dragon Thrust.
One of the things that makes both these teams so strong and enables them to be so consistent in their national success is the talents of their core of women. Patty King, one of the main threats for Dragon Thrust, along with Jamie Glader, and we already talked about Sarah Mextrod. Emily Regan has really stepped up this weekend. Both teams feel comfortable if they need to play 4 women. And, both teams, I think, at times during this game might play 4 women.
How does that get determined which side uses 4 women or 3?
Well, the offense gets to dictate. So it actually looks like here we're going to see 4 women on this offensive line for CLX. They've got 4 young gals who all played on the U23 teams in Megan Liu and Cammie Nelson and Sarah Pesch and Rebecca Miller. And with the strength in that core, that's what CLX hopes to rely on. It's imperative that CLX got off to a good start. No turnovers so far. They punched it in early, but CLX got off to just a horrid start in the regional final on a windy day, fell behind 8-1 at the half and never came close to recovering. An important point here for CLX.
Really a few quick scores early on. We have not seen a change of possession yet as the CLX team has possession here. Moving it upfield quickly. They already get close to that midfield marker with Megan Liu looking to get rid of it. Force from the side. Liu finally finds a connection with Barrett Davis. He slings it ahead, and now in the red zone, a chance for Chad Larson Experience. It's Brorson already has an assist as we get a stoppage here. See our team in orange. They will be making rulings from time to time if there's a discretion.
Oh, they make active calls on inbounds, out of bounds, and whether it was in the end zone or not. Everything else is initially called by the players on the field, and if there's a need to settle a dispute, that's when the observers will step in.
Brorson taps it back in play and looking for a score. Right on the edge of the goal line, he flips it in, and it goes to Megan Liu. She has both of Chad Larson Experience's goals in this game, and both teams with possessions twice and scores twice.
Well, what's interesting is heading into nationals, one of the teams that was talked about in the whole field more than any other was Chicago Machine. Who's one of Machine's top handlers? Bob Liu, Megan's older brother. And here in the semifinals, it's Megan making an impact. Machine fell short in the pre-quarters after a great Thursday in the men's division. But Megan Liu, a U23 games participant, finding space in the end zone to elude Andrea Crumrine, and we're even 2-2.
Pretty good showing over this tournament so far from the Midwest teams, but as got to the end, Chicago Machine, they fell off. We'll certainly talk a lot more about the men's division later, as there were a lot of upsets on the men's side going in.
My mind was blown watching the pre-quarters and quarters yesterday. It was unreal.
Julie Morris, our head observer today, Stephen Hubbard, Callum Lamb, and Daniel Wong out there to observe and officiate if need be for this one. So goals on each side early. We talked about the Chad Larson Experience name, but Dragon Thrust, a pretty peculiar name as well.
Well, it's a physics joke. You know, I don't really understand it because I never took physics, but the 4 forces that act on objects in flight: gravity, lift, drag, and thrust. And I really like their new jerseys that they got made just before Worlds. They have the Worlds emblem on the sleeve. Dragon Thrust has always had good jerseys, no matter which ones they've worn.
Well, you know, a little bit more cash in the flow when you win these tournaments.
That's true. That's a great point.
As they play it from the brick spot where the pull lands out of bounds, they take it upfield and put it on the brick. That's where they just started this possession.
Yeah, so far the wind has not been too much of a factor. There is a pretty steady wind, but it's blowing across the field from the far side to the near side. So not really giving either team an advantage. And so far, we've had 4 holds of serve. Now the deep shot for Drescher.
And a score for Jay Drescher, his second of the game. And these two teams, the offenses are rolling, and we haven't really seen this kind of fluidity on offense all year. It seems like at the beginning of a game in this type of tournament.
Well, both these teams weren't playing their best ultimate at regionals, but both are playing their best ultimate now. These two teams have run through pool play and bracket play unbeaten, tested, but unbeaten and unblemished. And you know, so far the defense hasn't done very much. You can see they're just playing catch-up. I think at one point there was somewhat of a bitter rivalry between these two teams, but over the years they've gotten to know each other so well. There's much more of a friendly rivalry, and I think they certainly have great respect for each other as Drescher finds the end zone for the second time. He's going to stay out there defensively along with Jacob Lean and Joshua Hemish.
We'll certainly talk more later about the spirit of the game of Ultimate, but you just kind of touched on it, the friendliness that these two teams have with one another. And they can go up against each other in regional finals, national semifinals, and not feel any bad blood, as we see how the Dragon Thrust team got here. 3-0 in Pool B. That win early on over LA 7 figures. They beat Blackbird in the quarterfinals. And Dragon Thrust with a 5-0 mark throughout this tournament, trying to defend their national championship as the pull comes from Drescher. And it rolls up before Brorson can knock it down.
You know, it's been a different season for Dragon Thrust. Obviously, they've handled it well, but you know, this was the first year that they really had the targets on their backs as the defending national champions. They went to Worlds and they experienced some adversity. Jay Drescher hurt his ankle in the semifinals and let go. Did not even play in the finals, and yet Dragon Thrust had enough depth to take care of business regardless.
Now looking for another score as they get down near the red zone. Megan Liu with a one-handed grab, finding the end zone as she connects with Kate Lyons. And the Chad Larson Experience answers again, 3 for 3, and we have not seen a point broken yet.
Tremendous offensive flow from CLX. It started with this shot to Brorson, and then the lefty backhand for Liu. Nice one-handed grab, little S-cut to space, fake to the right, turn to the left, and a good put from Liu right into the grasp of Kate Lyons.
Is that Chad Larson on their jersey?
It is.
The Experience 3 for 3 on their possessions. Once again, Megan Liu, who has scored the first 2 goals, getting the assist on this third one. She's been a big part of the offense for CLX so far in a first half that has blazed to the first 3 goals on each side.
Well, you know, you see these women making such an impact, and their development, obviously they deserve a lot of individual credit, but Kevin Sealer, who coached them at Iowa State, deserves a lot of credit for their development as well. And Iowa State has become something of a feeder program for CLX. 3-0 in their pool, and a relatively easy path to the quarterfinals, taking care of mischief after defeating American Barbecue. That's 2 San Francisco teams that the team from Iowa was able to dispatch en route to the Final Four.
They won all of their games except for one by 4 or more. The only close win, 13-11 over Ames. That was their first game in this tournament in pool play. So back to Dragon Thrust with neither team turning over the disc at any point so far. James Hron. Now Lean going deep on the huck, looking for the end zone, and Austin Lean finds Mike Clark as once again Dragon Thrust seeps right through the CLX defense.
There's a theory that good offense can beat good defense, and so far that's all that we've seen. Still a turnover-free game through 7 points. Nice put from Lean to the end zone, just to space. You know, it's a nice throw, but speaking as a handler, it's a pretty easy throw. If you see a guy streaking deep on a day like this with a crosswind, just put it deep, put some finesse float on it, and let your guy make a play.
It seems like the wind, which has kind of changed direction since we got here earlier this morning, is really boosting both teams' offenses.
Well, it has not been an impediment, that's for sure.
And with the fact that neither team's turned it over, each score has all gone in the same direction. Not once have they had to go the opposite way on offense.
Well, this is good ultimate. We'll see which defense can.
You don't like a 2-to-1 pitcher's duel?
Well, you know you do, but I mean this basically is, you know, a pitcher's duel. It's the offense taking care of business. They're striking out the side. The defense has not been able to make a play.
Mike Clark with a K. He's got a Q on the back of his jersey to end his last name. As a high huck, a rather high pull, goes to the Chad Larson Experience side. That one looks like it's got a parachute on it.
And once again, 4 females and a D underneath.
Finally, the first defensive stop, and now Dragon Thrust with a chance to go up by 2. Looking to set up their offense in the CLX red zone. Alicia Carr fires it ahead, but that's taken away. So both defenses come up with a stop, and now it's back to CLX. Pesh fires it ahead. Kate Lyons now. Looking for the offenses to open up, and now a red zone chance. It's Kurt Brorson who has an assist in this one. Slinging it back. CLX takes their time offensively. Over to the sideline, Megan Liu, 2 goals and an assist so far, heading for the end zone. She's right on the edge. And the observers stop play for the moment as a pick was called. So Megan Liu will have possession here after the observers figure out what's what between Jeff Trosvig and the CLX player. Looks like Cammie Nelson that's bent over there. No physical contact is allowed. You'll see some incidental contact throughout the day. Picks and screens not legal, and a foul occurs when some kind of contact is made.
And as you know from following sports, sometimes there are unwritten rules. And the unwritten rule is there's as much physical contact allowed as the players are willing to accept. And you will see a lot of physical contact as the day progresses.
And you'll see another goal here as Kate Lyons scores for the 2nd time. And the Chad Larson Experience, after a quick series of turnovers, gets back into a tie.
We'll keep track of break chances for you. And the Dragon Thrust squad with a chance for a break after forcing the turn, unable to capitalize. CLX works it down the field and again finds Lyons in the end zone. The makeup of this CLX team is so fascinating because about a third of the players on the team are master's age, in their 30s. And about a third of the players are below 25. The average age of the team is probably about 27, yet they have very few 27-year-olds. Just such a widespread dynamic. The ISU pipeline has allowed them to get younger when they were starting to feel a little bit old. And clearly the consistency, quarterfinals pretty much every year, back in the semis for the first time since 2010.
And it seems like a young person's game. You have a lot of movement on the field. You're running back and forth all the time. But yet, you do see some veterans. We mentioned Kevin Sealer in the open. He's 35 years old.
I mean, he's 35. You can look across the women's games. We're going to see Dominique Fontenette in the women's semi. She's been at nationals every year since the 17th century, it feels like. On the men's side, we'll see Bart Watson from Johnny Bravo and Danny Clark from Ironside, Taylor Pope from Ring. Veterans that still very much have game. It was funny. Kevin Sealer, I asked him yesterday, have you decided how much longer you want to keep playing? And he said, well, you hear what Tom Brady said? I want to play until I suck. And that's basically what Kevin Sealer says. And he says he'll probably need someone to tell him that he's not any good anymore. But he's still got game right now.
The disc hitting the turf there, but looks like a foul will be called, some contact, as Rebecca Miller got a little feisty. So it stays with Dragon Thrust in this tie game. 1st to 8 sends this one to halftime. 1st to 15 goes to the championship game tomorrow. Austin Lean, one of the top handlers in this tournament.
A little bit of a junky defense here from CLX.
They can pass it back and forth as much as they want until something opens up, and finally Clark near midfield. Quick toss up ahead, and now looking for the deep throw into traffic. It finds its target. The catch made by James Hron. And now Hron nearing the red zone. It's Erica Bacon back to Hron. Right in the middle of the field, looking for a score, and in the back of the end zone, it's good to Mike Clark.
CLX got the throw that it wanted. That over-the-top shot that floated to Hron, this one is exactly what the defense was hoping to get. You feel a little bit comfortable with a guy like Hron receiving, but still, CLX has to feel good about that possession. It got Dragon Thrust out of its comfort zone. An over-the-top throw, had some unnecessary float. Hron made the play. They put it in the end zone, but that's sort of the first twist in strategy that we've seen. And CLX changed the dynamic with that possession.
Clark has scored the last 2 for Dragon Thrust. What makes that jump throw kind of harder to defend? I mean, on screen it looks like it'd be easy to defend when the disc is flying up like that.
Well, they were forcing downwind. They were forcing to the near side, and it's a crosswind. So they're forcing any break throw to sail into the wind. And, when the disc hangs up in the air and floats that much, it's typically easier to defend. Hron, one of the best readers of the disc in the mixed games. Dragon Thrust coming out of Pool B. That Santa Maria team from Columbus, Ohio was fascinating. A lot of the girls from the Ohio State National Championship women's college team, Cassie Swafford, Paige Soper, Liz Gates. It was a team that was really female strong and came very close to advancing all the way to the semis, but upended in the quarterfinals by the mixed team from Seattle.
Slow White also 1 and 2 in pool play, as was the Doe Abides. As Chad Larson Experience has it again. Trying to answer a point from Dragon Thrust. They've been able to do that each time so far. Nobody's led by more than one.
You know, it's also telling, we haven't even seen any layouts. I mean, everything has been easy for both teams.
And a red zone chance for
Again.
CLX and another score. It's Kurt Brorson in the end zone for the first time. 5-5 as these two teams continue to trade blows, and very easily they've done it.
Well, the players on the D-lines are getting frustrated because they're just not, you know, causing any hesitation. Textbook offense, working the break side of the field, perfectly timed cut. These two teams are similar in that they're both experienced, but they're different in that CLX very rarely practices. In fact, a few years ago, they tried to hold some practices, and Kevin Sealer told me it was a disaster because they practiced some stuff, tried to implement some new strategies. It didn't work out. Half the team wanted to abandon what they were doing. Half the team wanted to keep it going. And then you have this Dragon Thrust team, it looks like a timeout was called. Minneapolis practices a bunch. They have a clear system. They've worked all season long to prepare for this tournament. Their focus is on getting better. They don't really talk about winning nationals. They talk about getting better every game. And, you know, if they happen to lose, it's a learning experience. They didn't have a great pro flight finale. Most teams that went to Worlds did not play all that well at ECC out in Washington. But the whole season has been about peaking this weekend. And, well, the O-lines are peaking right now for both these squads.
Kurt Brorson has a goal and 2 assists so far for the Chad Larson Experience out of Ames, Iowa. They were undefeated in Pool C. Amp went 2-1, Cosa Nostra 1-2, and the LA 7 figures had an 0-3 tournament as they didn't fare so well. Lost in the pre-quarters as well to Dragon Thrust. CLX certainly knows their opponent well. 5-5 here to begin this one against Dragon Thrust. But how does a thing like this break when you see these two teams playing so well offensively? How can it change?
Well, just one mistake. You know, we saw CLX change up the defensive scheme. It'll be interesting to see, do they go back to that zone? If I were them, I would, because it certainly flustered Dragon Thrust. That was the longest possession of the game, and they relied on that swilly over-the-top Blady flick that did find James Ron, like most of the throws intended for him to do. I would go back to that zone if I'm CLX here.
Dragon Thrust will get it after the pull. Again, 1st to 8. Sends this one to halftime. There's a soft cap after an hour and 25 minutes of play, but with these two teams moving offensively the way they are, might not even get to that point.
The rate we're at right now, not even close.
That does include the halftime as Dragon Thrust begins from the middle of the field. The pressure there, but a nice dump off to Ron. Dragon Thrust moving the disc quickly downfield. James Hron again, he has 10 goals and 6 assists in this tournament. You see the sheer size on the near side of the field from Talis Boyd as a drop there. Looked like some feet got tangled up.
Neil Hankey laying out. May have just nicked the disc enough. CLX with its first break chance.
They have not led yet, and it gets taken away.
Doug Jacobs' dump was canceled on the hand block.
Ron slapping that one to the turf. And now Dragon Thrust gets it right back. Talis Boyd with possession right here. 6'5", he towers over just about everybody on the field as he sends it back to Lean. Dragon Thrust patiently waiting for their turn. Looking to get back on top. As Erica Bacon flips it back to Boyd. talk about vision and seeing downfield. When you stand above everyone, must be a lot easier to see what's open in front of you.
There's no question about it. Just like a quarterback being able to see above the offensive line. A good tall handler as they try the hammer over the top. What a throw!
Beautiful play as Austin Lean connects with Mike Clark. Third goal for Clark, and Dragon Thrust back on top.
I can identify with a guy like Austin Lean, not a guy like James Ron. I didn't get many hand blocks in my day. What I did throw in my playing days, occasionally my teammates might have said I was involved in some questionable decisions. This was a questionable decision, but he threw it right on the money, and it worked out, so why not? What a throw from Lean into that wind.
That does not look like an easy throw to execute.
Especially throwing into the crosswind like that, but you know, he threw it with a lot of spin, a nice low, tight throw. Didn't allow the disc to get vertical and hang up on him. You know, all sorts of different types of hammers that you can unleash, and it just takes practice and throwing in the wind, which I guarantee you Austin Lee has done a lot. Clark, again in the end zone, his third straight.
Some different things that we'll learn here over the weekend. If you're new to Ultimate, what a flick is, a layout. You've heard Evan mention a few of these. A Callahan, which is something that I still haven't seen covering these Ultimate events.
On this field yesterday, I did see a greatest. Cassidy Rasmussen for San Francisco Revolver, a greatest in the right end zone that Dragon Thrust is pulling from right now. That was perhaps the most shocking game of the weekend. Either that or the Rhino sockeye game from the pre-quarters on the men's side, but that Cassidy Rasmussen greatest made it 3-love in their game against GOAT. Toronto team came back to take half 8-7, eventually winning 13-12 to dethrone the defending national champs and the defending world champs.
And what is a greatest?
Well, almost we're going to see one there, but if the disc is out of bounds and you're not able to catch it inbounds, if you leap. Here's a deep shot. They try to force it quickly. It's going to be a turnover. You leap from inbounds, get possession of the disc out of bounds, throw it back into the end zone or into the field of play before you land and your teammate catches it. It's just the greatest play.
Well, after that turnover, Chad Larson Experience gets it back. Still, they have not led, and Dragon Thrust has not led by more than one.
And probably the most rare play in Ultimate. I'd say you see more Callahans than greatests.
I've seen neither covering these events all year long as we've made it throughout the Triple Crown, the college championships, the club championship back 4th of July weekend, and these national championships now here in Texas. Sliding attempt, and the disc was knocked away by David Shirley.
Yeah, tremendous run through D from Shirley, just showing off his speed and being in the pocket of the defender.
Now Dragon Thrust looking for a 2-goal lead, and they overshoot it as it was stolen in the end zone by Blake Larson.
Mike Peterson, a little bit too much float on the air bounce backhand.
Now CLX looking to even it up again. They've been tied at every score so far, 1-1, 2-2, and so on, as CLX tries to make it 6-6. Ahead toward the end zone as they red zone chance. Now Lou couldn't reach it. Knocked down at the end by Emily Regan as it was too high for Megan Lou.
You know, Wayne, sometimes when your offense is flowing so crisply, you forget to take your time. And in that instance, they just forced it a little quickly. You didn't need to throw it that fast. You could have found more space as Dragon Thrust looks deep.
Mextroth on the run as she catches it right before the goal line. Dragon Thrust looking for their first 2-goal lead. They dump it back as they look for Mextroth again. Alicia Carr's got it. A hammer throw from Carr to the corner of the end zone and tracked down by Mike Peterson as Dragon Thrust goes up by 2 for the first time.
I don't know how Alicia Carr saw this. Remarkable vision to see that back space in the end zone. That's a really tough hammer, but able to outsmart the defender Barrett Davis. And the first break of the game comes on the 12th point. Now Dragon Thrust will try to stuff and score to take half.
It looked like on the replay there that Carr just saw the opening And Peterson reacted to the throw, didn't really head that way to begin with.
Oh, it was a dangerous throw because the hammer tends to float more, and you had other players on the middle of the field toward the middle of the end zone. But, you know, a very nice job by the Dragon Thrust cutters who didn't make the catch, creating that space. And again, Carr, a veteran, now 29 years old, been playing with Dragon Thrust for a while, able to see that space.
See what a hammer is, that overhead toss. That is a very difficult throw to make. What's one of those? Is that the hardest throw, or is there one that's even harder?
It depends on the individual. You know, some people have strong hammers, some people have strong scoobers. There's the thumber, there's, you know, all sorts of different types of throws. One thing we haven't done yet with you at these tournaments is get you out in the field and see what you've got.
Yeah, that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
For sure. Jay Drescher on the pull. Pretty day here in Frisco, Texas. National championships on the line this weekend. The Dragon Thrust with an opportunity here to repeat. They won it last year. A hawk and looking for the end zone. Kevin Sealer laying out. Does Sealer have possession? He does. It's a goal for Kevin Sealer on the dead run with Drescher on his tail. He lays out for the score.
Cammy Nelson with the put. Deep flick huck. Sealer had a couple steps when the throw was released, and Drescher just a tremendous effort. The cannonball of a defender, certainly not afraid to get involved in contact.
It was a one-handed catch all the way down for Sealer. Never even got the second hand on it.
That's the first deep shot of the game that has been successful. Their first score that has come outside of the red zone. You know, Sealer knows what to expect when Drescher's guarding him. He wasn't surprised that he got, you know, a backpack of Drescher on that goal.
That's the first goal this weekend for the 35-year-old captain of the Chad Larson Experience, the founder of this team.
Yeah, he's typically more of a distributor. I mean, he's had double-digit assists over the course of the weekend. He's the guy who determines most of the strategy for this team. He started playing his freshman year at Iowa State. You know, went to a dorm meet and greet. There was an ultimate game. He led the way in goals. Actually went to a couple of practices, then quit the team that fall. A friend of his went to a tournament and said, dude, you got to get back involved in this. He said, nah, it's not really my thing. He finally went to a tournament. It's usually the first tournament that gets you hooked. That's what it was for me. The first tournament, you become brothers, sisters with your teammates, and you know, there's nothing like just playing Ultimate all day. If you experience some success, it's even better.
James Haran looking for a teammate, a layout there on the catch. And now looking for the point. Anna Hetler going deep. Right on the edge of the goal line, Austin Lean with the leaping catch. And a Clark for the point to send this game to halftime as Dragon Thrust quickly gets to 8 in this first half.
What a fun sequence this was. After Sealer, the handler, went deep. Austin Lean, the primary handler for Dragon. He says, I can go deep. And a quick flip into the end zone to take half, 8-6. That was a very exciting first half. Only one break. Dragon Thrust converting on just one of a very small number of break chances. This is anybody's game.
Austin Lean to Mike Clark. Clark had half of the goals in the first half for Dragon Thrust. He scored 4 of them. And an 8-6 lead for Dragon Thrust over CLX.
And one thing to note, CLX will receive the disc to start the second half.
See Mike Clark as he had a huge first half. And for Dragon Thrust, we meet with their head coach, Jake Henderson. Jake, a lot of offense there in the first half, and your team seemed to be in cruise control.
Yeah, we were playing well. They were playing well as well. It was a battle of the offenses. We got one break, that's it. Not a whole lot of turns.
Jake, you got a little bit lucky on that when they finally threw some junk at you, the crossfield to run. How do you feel your offense adapted to the junk D?
We like that. We've gotten a lot better at that over the years, and we like putting the disc over the top, and we're going to be patient until that's open.
What adjustments do you make defensively to try to create some more turnovers?
They've got some great women out there, and they are making it difficult for us. We're going to find a matchup that sticks and go with that. We might get a little bit crazy with some junk too, but we're a man defense team. So.
Seems like you have a pretty good size advantage out there. Ron is 6'3", Tallis Boyd 6'5", Mike Clark. It seems like he's taller than the 5'11" than he's listed. What do you do to try to make that your advantage?
We love putting it deep. I would put Sarah Mextroth in that too. But I think we definitely have a size advantage, and we've used that against CLX in the past, and we'll likely see it again. Right now we're playing really patient offense and just taking our shots when they're there. So that's what we want to do.
Jake, we love watching you guys put it deep. Last thing, give us a sense of what any factor the wind has had in the game so far.
I thought it was going to be quite a bit more, and I haven't seen a huge. It hasn't affected it, and it might have died down just a little bit, but it really hasn't affected it.
Coach, good luck in the second half.
Hey, thank you.
Jake Henderson is the head coach of Dragon Thrust, and they have a lead, 8-6 over the Chad Larson Experience of Ames, Iowa. It's halftime here in Frisco. Here at Dr. Pink Field in Frisco, Texas, it's Dragon Thrust for Minneapolis with an 8-6 lead over the Chad Larson Experience out of Ames, Iowa. Beautiful day here for this mixed semifinal with Evan Lepler. I'm Wayne Randazzo, and we take a look at our first half highlights. We saw both offenses really run through the defenses very quickly and easily.
Dragon Thrust takes half 8-6, 14 points in the half. 11 of those 14 points, there were no turnovers. And there wasn't a break until the 12th point. Only 2 turnovers before the 12th point. The offenses were clicking, moving left to right down the field and consistently able to just basically render the defense useless.
Megan Liu highly involved in the offense for the Chad Larson Experience. Zia connecting here with Kate Lyons as Liu had a couple of goals and an assist early on for CLX.
You know, both these teams have had pretty good breakthrows, but the marks have really not been involved. And if I'm Kevin Seeler or Jake Henderson, I talk about the intensity and aggressiveness of our collective marks. You can't get broken consistently if you want to have a steady defense. And so far, I mean, you know, just not much going on the mark. Some decent dump defense there, but an easy over-the-top deep shot for Drescher. He's been impactful on both sides of the disc. James Hron hasn't, you know, we haven't called his name too many times, but it's been others stepping up. Clark has been huge going deep. Even Austin Lean, who's typically more of a distributor, making the deep shots for Dragon Thrust. And, you know, the stats pretty well spread. Really, both teams' offensive lines get A+ for that first half. The defenses get Ds. And the question is, which defensive line can be better in the second half? Minnesota has a small advantage right now, but CLX down by 2 does receive to start the second half.
Mike Clark with 4 goals early. Austin Lean 3 assists leading the way for Dragon Thrust. Down on the field, the Chad Larson Experience founder and head coach, Captain Kevin Seeler. Quite a grab there, Kevin, on that score that you had, laying out with Jay Drescher all over your back.
Yeah, thanks. You know, credit goes to Cammy for putting it out in a great space where I could just put Jay on my back. Jay's a lot faster than me, and I knew a bid was coming, but Cammy put it out there in space where it was a relatively easy grab to box him out.
Kevin, did you expect this game to be such an offensively dominated game?
No. I heard what you're saying about the marks, and I think you're absolutely right there. Our teams our 2 collective teams here have never really played this clean before, so it is a little surprising that there were so few turnovers. But you know, we talked about at halftime here about how there's defense left to give. That we made a few bids, we're a little short. Our strategy in the first half was to give them a little space in our man defense, and I think we talked about how we're giving them a little too much space. We're respecting a couple of them a little too much. We're giving Mextroth too much space. I was giving James a little too much space. We're going to play tighter, try to make some plays. That may mean we give up an easy score or 2, but we know we got to make plays at this point, being down 2. But I've been talking to the you know, a few people since we qualified for semis yesterday, and I said if we could be within 2 of Dragon Thrust, obviously I don't like being down, but if we could be within 2, I think we have a fighter's chance.
Does the experience of facing this team so many times help you in a situation like this when you need some points late?
Yeah, we know what they want to do. We know who we wanted to contain. And I think we've relatively done well at containing some of them. James hasn't done a whole lot yet, but we're not doing a good job of guarding the players that maybe don't show up on the stat sheet as much. So we've got to play tighter defense on those players that we're not trying to contain, and maybe even give those players we're trying to contain less space. But yeah, knowing these players, we know we can come back. It's just a matter of making the plays. And then you know, we had one possession on D and got hand blocked on it. We know we got to do better than that.
All right, Kevin, thanks a lot. Good luck in the second half.
Thank you.
Kevin Sealer had a lot to say about the Chad Larson Experience in the first half, and now
Wish he would open up a little bit.
a look to the second half, as it's an 8-6 game in favor of Dragon Thrust. CLX keeping it close, their offense running smoothly. You mentioned how defense needs to be better for the Chad Larson Experience. How do they make it better?
By making some adjustments, and we heard Kevin talk about them getting a little bit more aggressive on the underneath cuts. He acknowledged that they may get burned deep once or twice, but just trying to change it up. Clearly, they feel that they need to mark a little bit better, prevent some easy break throws. And you know, he told me before the game they had basically had 4 or 5 Dragon Thrust players in Lean and Kron and Mextroff and Glader that they wanted to contain and felt like they could take care of business against everybody else. He said we need to do a better job against everybody else.
Another high pull from Dragon Thrust, and here comes CLX to start the second half. First team to 15 heads to the national championship game tomorrow against either Seattle Mixed or Boston Wildcard. These are the 2 lowest seeds remaining in the mixed division. 2 against 3. As that one went down to the turf, but Cammie Nelson keeps it alive. Now a red zone chance. Nelson flips it toward the end zone and finds her target. Megan Liu has her 3rd goal of the game, and a quick strike for CLX, picking up where everyone left off in the first half.
I'm not surprised, Wayne, but I'm really impressed by these consistent break throws from their crew of offensive talent. You know, the ladies that played together on the U23 team, they have such good chemistry, and you know, ultimate is about having size and speed, but it's also about field sense, and it's about cohesiveness. And the CLX offense, and the Dragon Thrust offense for that matter, has been just tremendously cohesive for the first 15 points of this game.
Liu's been very involved. 3 goals, couple of assists, as she gets CLX right back on the board to start this second half. And now we'll see if those adjustments were made by the CLX defense, as Dragon Thrust will get it off the pull here. Dragon Thrust 2013 national champions. They were semifinalists in 2010 and 2012 before finally breaking through last year. And CLX hoping for that same breakthrough, as they've been semifinalists quite a bit.
Yeah, they went to the finals in 2009, and Kevin Sealer feels that was his best team, but they ran into Chase Sparling-Beckley in that Axis of Seville team that was just super talented and ended up taking the mixed division that year. The team did qualify for Worlds and won the gold medal in Prague. Their only gold medal at a Nationals or Worlds event.
I think the most amazing thing about this CLX squad is that in Ames, Iowa, there's not a giant pool of players like in these big cities. As Lean goes deep for Clark, and Clark's unable to get it. It was knocked away right at the front of the end zone. A great defensive play by Doug Jacobs.
Yeah, Jacobs, one of their top defenders, and it just held up a little too much. This is CLX's chance right here. Really just their second break opportunity of the game, and James Strong got a hand block to thwart the prior one.
It hasn't been tied since 5-5, but CLX can draw back to even here. Trying to take their time on offense. Neil Hankey sends it back. Goes to Hankey near midfield. A quick flip and a strike up the side into Dragon Thrust territory. That's Sealer along the sideline, looking for the end zone and the tie, trying to find and connecting with Rebecca Miller.
We're back on serve, and it started with the D by Jacobs. Able to get just enough of the disc in the end zone to prevent the Dragon Thrust score. And they work it 70 yards down. Sealer backhand with a lot of float. This is just about letting a playmaker go to work.
Now 8 apiece As we see how these two teams undefeated along with Boston Wildcard.
The biggest shocker in the mixed division, I think, was the San Francisco Polar Bears. They went 1-2 on Thursday, and then, consequently had to match up with Wildcard in the pre-quarters. A great back-and-forth game until Wildcard pulled away late, and the San Francisco struggles. The story of the weekend in the mixed division: American Barbecue, Blackbird, Mischief, and Polar Bears, all worthy of semifinal consideration heading into the weekend, and none of them make it to Saturday.
Yeah, Bay Area Blues indeed, and now this one back to square one, 8 apiece, tied for the 6th different time. As Chad Larson Experience pulls it to Dragon Thrust. CLX has never led. They sure have tied it a whole bunch of times, as this disc is flying to Arlington, looks like.
That's a heck of a pull. It did sail out of bounds. That last break was just tremendous. 70 yards, the playing field proper, from the front of the end zone to the other, 40 yards wide. It's about 13 yards less wide than a football field with the 20-yard end zones. But that last break from CLX, a huge turning point in the game, and here's another.
CLX has not led in this game, but after that defensive stop, a chance to go ahead for the first time. Nick Turco will put it in. Slings it forward, and a sliding catch keeps the possession for CLX. It's Jacobs to the sideline as he finds Turco. Into the red zone for the Chad Larson Experience. Bill Franey trying to punch it in as they get it down to the edge of the goal line with Brent Novy. The defensive squad on the field for CLX. Turco trying to find an opening as he slips, but still connects. And the lead for CLX as Bill Franey scores his first goal. Or did he? He might be coming back. A foul was called, so for the moment, that goal does not count. Chad Larson Experience will have to put it back in, right at the edge of the goal line.
It was Rebecca Miller who had that unbelievable layout D, a championship caliber defensive play by Miller to create this scoring chance and the break chance.
After the foul, it goes back to Turco, and now CLX will have to once again strike through the pain of the goal line to get back on top. Lead was very brief before that foul caused it to come off the board. Now they punch it in. Turco again to Franey, and this time it counts for the Chad Larson Experience. Their first lead of the day. 3 straight goals to start this second half.
Tallis Boyd was broken for the initial goal that was called back, and then broken again. The backhand around. Great job by Nick Turco on the pivot. And the scoring chance created by this layout D. Getting horizontal, Rebecca Miller.
So now CLX in front. We heard about the adjustments that Kevin Sealer wanted to make. Have you seen those adjustments?
Absolutely. I mean, that defensive play by Miller, a great example, right in the pocket of the defender and getting on the ground. What did I say with about 12 points in the first half? Neither team had even attempted a layout D. Neither offense was forced to put a disc that was even questionable. Everything was super smooth, and the way you get an offense off balance is by throwing your body around, and even if you don't get that D, they're thinking about it the next time. CLX with its first lead.
So now the kids from Ames, Iowa, the 2010 world champions, although they've never been national champions, trying to advance to the championship game for the first time since 2009. First of 15 advances to Sunday. And after this pull, Dragon Thrust will get it back. They had an 8-6 lead at the break, but now 3 straight points since halftime for CLX to make things interesting.
This is the time when Dragon Thrust might try to rely on its stars a little bit more. And the brightest star is number 17, James Hron, who has really gained confidence. I was talking with Jake Henderson, the coach, about how James Hron was invited to try out for the World Games team that went to Columbia. You know, with the top guys in the men's division, Hron was the only mixed division player competing with the likes of Bo Kittredge and Dylan Tennell and Chase Beckley and George Stubbs. And I think just that tryout process gave Hron a huge amount of confidence. You know, he's a guy that I'm sure the Sub-Zero folks would love to have in their tight football pants. But James Hron looks pretty comfortable in the Dragon Thrust shorts.
Now back it goes for the Dragon Thrust offense, trying to tie the game from their perspective from the first time, and a quick move into CLX territory.
By the way, Sub-Zero tried to make a fashion statement this weekend, and I don't think it's going to catch on.
Patty King goes up top and finds her target in the end zone as Josh Hemish pulls down the first goal of his game today. Back to even for Dragon Thrust.
Well, Hemish, a super steady and speedy target downfield. Can play O, can play D, and reads the throw from King perfectly.
Got quite a haircut since the last time I saw him.
He's had a lot of different haircuts over the years.
The long dreads last time. But Hemish gets on the board here. Despite what it says on the back of his jersey, that's who that is. The 31-year-old Hemish, the first goal of the second half for Dragon Thrust.
His teammates call him Schwa, Joshua Hemish. Not to be confused with the women's team from Portland, also known as Schwa.
They got a little bit of like the XFL thing going on with the nicknames on the back of the jersey.
Five of the 9 Dragon Thrust goals, Wayne, have come from outside the red zone, which, you know, it says something about CLX's defense. They're playing underneath. Dragon Thrust has the throwers and the targets to take advantage.
Now 9-9 as these two teams have duked it out in this mixed division semifinal. Seattle mixed, Boston wild card, the other semifinal. The two winners will play tomorrow in the championship game, as we've seen several ties and finally a lead change. It's been tied at almost every score, 6-6 and 7-7, the only two ties we haven't seen. Otherwise, every point has been a tie point. Up to the brick after the pull went out of bounds as CLX looks to get back on top. They find some space in the back of the end zone, but unable to track it down. And CLX with an unforced error to give it back to Dragon Thrust.
It's amazing how easy Megan Liu has gotten open all game long, but forced that throw a little bit.
Now Jay Drescher will pull it up to the front of the end zone. Being forced by Blake Larson.
Yeah, it looks like they're marking him straight up to try to prevent the huck.
Dragon Thrust in the black, CLX in the white.
Which is a smart move with Drescher. He gets off a big flick anyway.
And Drescher into traffic as that one gets knocked away. Some contact as Kurt Brorson went over even his own teammate to keep it away from Claire Oakley.
This is a big-time collision here. I think we can give half the D to Brorson and half the D to Nelson.
And Nelson also got flopped on at the end there by Brorson. But CLX with possession after that defensive stop.
Brorson 6'3", 195.
Megan Liu tosses it down the sideline, looking for Brorson, and it's too strong. Brorson being shadowed by Brian Schoenrock. As Dragon Thrust will get it back.
Well, you can see Megan Liu has the shooter mentality, like Reggie Miller or Ray Allen. Even if you've missed a couple, you always think the next one's going in. Unleashing it just a little bit out of sync right now for the CLX offense.
Once again, Drescher runs it back up front. Larson on top. Drescher begins the possession to Schoenrock.
Stay with the Barrett. You gotta keep working, Barrett.
The backhand goes in reverse and now up ahead to Drescher again.
Go, Barrett.
Drescher flies one across the field, and it's run down by Schoenrock. Dragon Thrust looks to get back on top. They haven't led since CLX went up 9-8 with 3 straight goals to start this second half.
Good to see Schoenrock on the field. It was unclear whether we would even see him in this game. Suffered a wrist injury yesterday. It's his non-throwing wrist. He's playing with his left wrist wrapped and able to make the clap catch and get the throw on the short swing.
Jamie Glader's got it now after some contact with Lou. Glader looking for an opening and finally finds one up ahead to Drescher. Drescher with the hammer toss. And knocked away. Good defense by Kurt Brorson. CLX really with the advantage here as they have their offense on the field. If they can just get into the end zone and break this point.
Brorson with his second big D at that point. Questionable decision by Drescher. It's a tough crossfield hammer. CLX wants the deep ball.
And Lou trying to find the space for it, but it hung for a long time, and Schoenrock comes out of the backfield to knock it away.
And that's one of the dynamics of the mixed game. If you huck it to a lady, you always have to be aware of what speedy guy might enter the picture. And Schoenrock with the poach comes up with a D.
He's almost a foot taller than Lou. Just no chance for Megan Lou to go up and play that jump disc. Been 9-9 for a while. This has certainly been the longest point of the game. Drescher sends it back in at too far as CLX gets a red zone chance after a missed connection on the first try. Quick strike and knocked away again. Looking for the end zone, it was Emily Regan who kept CLX out of it.
Tremendous D by Regan. And the put a little bit behind Cammie Nelson. You want that throw to go to the front pylon, the front cone. It was about 5 yards in there, and it gave the defender a chance to make a play.
After a long back and forth, a timeout finally, as these two teams play for the 10th point. Back and forth they've gone, really in a situation we haven't seen yet in this game. The defense is stepping up to make their notice.
Got some 81 Rose Bowl footage coming out.
At 9-9, we take a look back in ultimate time. 1981 at the Rose Bowl. Look at this. The game of ultimate in its infancy. The game hasn't changed a whole lot, has it?
Well, Sub-Zero, the men trying to bring us back to those very tight lower leg wear. This weekend, the men of Minneapolis with a fashion statement. But no, you know, it's been amazing to watch the game grow and to see the remarkable athleticism. And, you know, these days in the youth division especially, it's exploding. And it's so much fun to walk around the fields here in Frisco and see high school kids so excited. You know, obviously they get excited to see a guy like Brody Smith and a guy like Bo Kittredge and Mark Lloyd for GOAT. The sport is starting to cultivate true stars, and they become role models for the young kids, and it's how you build up the overall participation. Because here's a fact. The vast majority of people who get to play Ultimate for the first time, almost a Callahan from Sealer, he was calling for this trip. People who see Ultimate for the first time enjoy it. The job is exposing people to Ultimate. We'll see how this gets sorted out. Did Sealer get his hand on the disc first?
Looks like he did. Now replay. Kind of see Sealer stick his hands through first as the observers work it out.
We do have a foul call on the play. Going to the observer.
And they will say that Sealer did not touch it first, so Dragon Thrust will keep possession. So our women's semifinal coming up a little bit later on today. DC Scandal against Boston Brood Squad. We'll have both men's semifinals tonight. All 3 championship games from each division tomorrow here at Dr. Pink Field in Frisco, Texas. 9 apiece. Great sliding opportunity there, but it was a little bit wide, and now CLX after that miss, or did she make the catch? Looks like it'll be an observer rule here anyway, as Claire Oakley, a great effort, but it comes back nonetheless. So back to Dragon Thrust to the front of the end zone. Sometimes you'll see this once the observers get involved a little bit, the game slows down, the pace of the game kind of slips after we've seen a great pace early on.
That was one of the great things about the first half. The observers were basically just watching the game down there. They had the best view, but weren't really involved.
That's how you want it. That's how this game is at its best. That's how the sport really is at its most watchable, when you see these teams connecting and able to keep the pace up. Sometimes the observers do have to step in and sort things out. Back to work for Dragon Thrust on this possession, and again, the observers will call a pick.
One thing to note, and it might be a factor down the stretch, you see on the bottom of your screen, no yellow dashes under Dragon Thrust. They are now out of timeouts.
Still 2 left for CLX, and a huck attempt for Dragon Thrust, looking for the lead again, and Schoenrock on the second effort makes the catch for the score.
Well, after this marathon point, it basically comes down to a 50-50 shot from Drescher. And really, Brorson had position here, but just slightly misread it. Schoenrock physically creating his territory and able to read the disc a little bit better. Maybe got away with a little push off in the back.
There was some shoving on both ends, it looked like, as Schoenrock on that jump throw from Drescher just threw it up into the wind. See what happens.
I think we should put an asterisk next to that graphic that says it's a non-contact sport.
Not only do you see contact, but occasionally you'll see some hard contact. First goal today for Schoenrock. Mentioned the size of Dragon Thrust, another big guy, 6'1". Long and lean, a lot of these players are. I mentioned Clark earlier at 5'11". He plays much bigger. Now a 10-9 lead for Dragon Thrust. Trying to return to the championship game. Last year they were national champions here in Texas. As Peterson pulls it for Dragon Thrust. CLX looking to tie again. Turco shoots it ahead. And injury looks like. A foot got caught in the turf. Seems like he's okay. Check this again. Looks like that's Sealer. Just lost his pivot foot. Hard to tell what happened there.
Clearly a non-contact injury. And he'll take a sub. Hopefully he's all right.
The captain of this team on his way out. Seems to be walking fine. Whatever happened there, kind of turf-toed himself. First to 15 advances to the championship game tomorrow.
And with CLX taking a sub, Dragon Thrust also allowed to take a sub. Drescher comes onto the field for the Minnesota team. CLX right here basically running a gender horizontal stack. The 3 male handlers and the 4 female cutters that have all worked so well together.
CLX trying to tie it again. We've had several ties in this game. Only the 8-6 lead at halftime for Dragon Thrust was the only lead above 1. John Starren sings it ahead, and now Lyons near the goal line. Lyons trying to punch it into Turco, and she does. Nick Turco gets the goal for CLX, and it's tied again.
Well, without Kevin Sealer, it's John Starren who has been playing with Kevin Sealer basically forever. And into the end zone for Turco, able to convert, deadlock us again, 10-all. About 17 minutes away from the potential soft cap going on.
And when that soft cap reaches, then a score limit is in place. Explain how that works.
Well, take a look at the women's bracket first, as we see Scandal from DC and Brute Squad from Boston. That's the #1 seed versus the defending champion. The other semifinal is great too. How about a rematch of the World Championship Game Finals, Fury and Riot, the two legendary teams from the West Coast.
All chalk on the women's side as the top 4 seeds have all advanced.
And we'll talk about it more. It was chalk, but it was not easy chalk. Some really unreal comebacks to create that 1 through 4 semifinal. Wayne, if the soft cap goes on after the point when the soft cap goes on, then you add 2 to the higher number. So let's say it's 12-11. The soft cap goes on in the middle of a point. It becomes 12-12. Then it's game to 14.
Keep an eye on that, about 16 minutes or so from that soft cap horn. As these two teams didn't look like we would need the soft cap early as they traded blows, got to 8 very quickly. Game has slowed a bit. Defenses have stepped up in the second half, while CLX has outscored Dragon Thrust 4-2 since halftime. Some contact. Even if there is an offensive foul, possession does not change.
This was just a foul on one of the cutters. It was a tremendous underneath cut from Erica Bacon. Gain about 25 yards downfield.
See Bacon there in the middle as she made her cut.
Oh my.
And Patty King with possession here as it goes up ahead. Hammer throw on the way from Lean, and it finds Mike Clark. Dragon Thrust back in front. 5th goal of the game for Mike Clark.
And again, Austin Lean goes into the toolbox and decides to drop the hammer. Crossfield, what a beautiful throw.
And Mike Clark's been awfully busy in this one for Dragon Thrust. 5 of the 11 goals. As you see Lean crossing the field on that hammer, a perfect throw right into the arms of Clark to give Dragon Thrust the lead once again.
Well, CLX was afraid of Austin Lean picking them apart, and basically that's what he's done.
See the great field vision and really the ability to make different types of throws.
Yeah, having a versatile arsenal. And you know, your quickness as a handler to be able to get the disc on resets and be able to threaten deep like we saw Lean before. He's really become a very complete player. You know, he's been one of the captains of this Dragon Thrust team for a while. Played 1 year a high school ultimate in Minnesota. Actually, Dave Klink coached him at YCC. As we see the game recap, it was 8-6 at half. CLX came back to take the lead, but Dragon Thrust has had the appropriate counterpunch.
8 different tie scores in this game. We've seen it tied at every score except 6s and 7s. CLX will try to even it up at 11 as this pull ends up going out of bounds. They'll bring it up to the brick mark where Barrett Davis will put it in play for the Chad Larson Experience.
I'd say the majority of the time in mix you see 4 men, 3 women. Not with CLX, but that deep shot intended for Lou was too far.
Yeah, they really try to play that mismatch with Megan Lou. Dragon Thrust will have a chance for a 2-goal lead once again. They haven't had one since the halftime score of 8-6. But it's not going to happen here as Brorson knocks it away. The layout D from Kurt Brorson.
He's having himself a remarkable game.
Now Barrett Davis taps it back into play.
He's leading them in Ds despite playing in the O-line, but CLX is getting sloppy.
Sarah Pesh couldn't reach that one. It goes back to Dragon Thrust after a couple of turnovers. Quick foul there on Brorson. Sometimes they call fouls that really don't matter. tap on the arm. They just work through it, but they always stop the play for it. As Emily Regan ends up with it for Dragon Thrust. David Shirley now along the sideline, sends it back to Andrea Crumrine. And her throw is too long, despite a diving attempt for Pete Carr. Now another turnover, another chance for CLX, this time Pesh with a grab. And a lefty fling forward that falls on the turf. The defense there from Jamie Glader. Now Carr puts it back into play, finds Schoenrock in the middle. Schoenrock dumps it to the sideline, looking for the end zone, too high for Sarah Ancio. And it ends up being pulled down by Cammie Nelson. She goes deep along the sideline for Pesh. For everybody, really, there were 3 different players from each team, and nobody comes up with it.
Injury call in the aftermath of this jump ball.
Schoenrock got stepped on, it looked like, as Barrett Davis came down right on top of him.
Davis probably feels he should have made that catch.
Schoenrock will come off, Davis will come off too. And Dragon Thrust will have possession after that jump disc fell into no man's land. Dragon Thrust has had a slim lead throughout this game. CLX has only led once. They've certainly not been able to gain any distance as Regan fires it ahead. Braun thought about the hammer. Being forced from the side, he sends it back. Crumrine again, out to the side, and David Shirley. Pete Carr set up in the middle. Crumrine behind him. Sideline connection to James Hran. Hran on the hammer, a deep, high throw, and it finds the back of the end zone for Sarah Mextra.
Jake Hran has some onions to make that throw. And a tremendous read by Mextra. Second assist for Hran. And Mextra just read it a little bit better than Melissa Gibbs.
Mextra has 11 goals now in this tournament. Hran a couple of assists today, now 12 in the tournament for Hran.
We've talked a lot about the U23 gals from CLX, but Mextra also on the U23 mixed team, planning on trying out for that team. Jake Henderson, the coach, said that he has to write a recommendation for her to be involved in the tryout process, and he was asked to rank her, you know, where does she rank in the region and in the country, and just other general comments, and he basically wrote number one, number one, number one. I mean, he wouldn't take any other woman other than Mextra. She's got size, she's got skill, clearly she's got great sense about her and ability to read the disc. That might be the most important thing.
First to 15 moves on to the championship game tomorrow. Biggest lead so far for Dragon Thrust has been 2. CLX trying to pull it back within 1. A collision as Lions had the disc for a moment. Seems like everybody's okay. Lions pop back up right away. It was a head-to-head smash. Lions actually never had possession as she ran into Erica Bacon.
I've been involved in a couple of these. One person's going in, one person's coming out, and bam.
Yeah, great game.
Hey, great game, Possession will stay with Chad Larson Experience. So he will not. It goes to Dragon Thrust.
The turnover. Looking for Drescher.
And Drescher is wide open as he pulls it down. Biggest lead yet for Dragon Thrust. They go up by 3.
Good to see Sealer back in the game. And Sealer had the size, but Drescher had the legs. And attacked the disc well at the highest point.
We saw Sealer beat Drescher earlier. And this time it's the other way around on the flick huck from Mike Peterson.
CLX takes a timeout. They're first in the second half. Dragon Thrust on the cusp of another trip to the finals. The quest for the double peak is something that is discussed a lot in Ultimate. Typically, teams try to build up over the course of the season to be your absolute best at Nationals in October, and to try to become the highest level in August, and then cool back down and then bring that back up. It's an unbelievably difficult thing to do. It's why you very rarely see it. But this team from Dragon Thrust certainly has the pieces, and what makes them good, they don't rely on one player. Everybody has been involved for Dragon Thrust over the course of the weekend. It seems like everybody's scored. It seems like everybody's distributed. And the fact that they are a mixed team that practices a lot together and has played together for so long, they have a special cohesion that most mixed teams do not have.
Quite a 12 months it's been. National champions last October, world champions just a couple of months ago in Italy, and a win away, 2 points away even, from advancing to the national championship game again this year.
Trying to collect a third gold medal in a 12-month span. Jake Henderson told me that in the guest bedroom in his house, that he has about 30 discs hanging on the wall. And the disc from last year is the disc from the semifinal game, because the semis was the hump that Dragon Thrust in the past had never been able to eclipse. And last year they finally got past the semis into the finals, defeating the Polar Bears. And again here, as we're 5 minutes away from the soft cap, Minnesota 2 points away from the final 2.
Soft cap barely at this point doesn't really hold much in this game because 15's the goal anyway. It will remain so as Dragon Thrust tries to get there. Now CLX with a huck, trying to get closer quickly, and it's knocked up and scored by Kurt Brorson. You could see it after the deflection that Brorson had his eyes on it the whole time, and a big point for CLX.
That's why you always want to trail the play and be involved. Rebecca Miller could not haul it in. But there was Brorson, a nice easy clap catch in the end zone.
Now 13-11, and what CLX needs is another quick stop and a score. Kurt Brorson's had a nice game.
He
Couple
really
of
has.
Goals, couple of assists.
30-year-old from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Played for the Alpha Cobra Squadron team, which was sort of a CLX Dragon mixed team. A lot of players from Iowa and Minnesota came together. They made the semis in 2008. A lot of the players from that game involved in this one as well.
Brorson after that deflection and the goal, helping things get a little bit closer for CLX. In a situation where time is a little bit of an issue here, under 3 minutes before the soft cap. Is there anything they could do to speed up this process of getting the pull back up quickly?
I think once the defense signals, well, once the offense signals readiness, they could pull whenever they want. Time's not much of a factor right now, though. And as you said, even if the soft cap goes on, it might be a hard to 16 if the Dragon Thrust were to score. It's game to 15. You do have to win by 2 unless the cap becomes involved. So you could see a 17-16 score. It is hard to 17.
The hard cap goes on 20 minutes after the soft cap horn blows. That'll be coming up here in the next couple minutes.
4th out of bounds pull from CLX in the game.
That does allow good field position and a start right in the middle for the opponent as Dragon Thrust tries to push it ahead. And they overshoot. A turnover as CLX gets it back right away. Exactly what they needed. Now they need a score to make it a 1-point game.
She's back under, Jamie. She's back under.
Dan Brennan in the middle of the field as they punch it up ahead.
Jamie, get there, Jamie,
Rebecca
get
Miller
there.
looking for a shot to the red zone. And that one too far for Brennan. As CLX got a little impatient near the goal line.
Well, that's the textbook ultimate play. Quick little flip, he was open, but did not put enough float on it. Unable to make the clean catch. That's a big turnover late in this second half.
CLX really needed a point there, but Dragon Thrust now with a chance to go up by 3 again. Laran looking deep for Hetler, a great grab. Somehow, Jamie Glader made that catch. And now a flip into the end zone that's knocked away. Doug Jacobs with the D.
Glader somehow came up with that disc despite Amy Sheldall's position, and she was ready to knock it down. Sealer will pick up for CLX. They need to go the full 70 to get back within 1.
Sealer flips it ahead to Rebecca Miller. Possession begins for CLX, a big one as the soft cap is about to go off in the next few seconds. A flick upfield and into traffic as Mike Clark knocks it down. So Dragon Thrust, as the soft cap is about to hit 0, already up 2 with possession.
That was a really tough throw from Sealer because Kate Lyons was poaching in the lane. Sealer tried to throw it over the poach, and it was an easy D for Dragon Thrust.
And now looking for a point. Clark's got 5 already, but unable to get that one. A great pick by Doug Jacobs in the end zone. There might be a dispute here on contact.
Again, looking for Clark. The observers will converge.
Jacobs did put his hands up on the shoulders of Clark before his leap. Kind of used Clark a little bit as a boost to make that jump. They're going to send it back, it looks like. It will stay with Dragon Thrust despite the great defensive effort. It will not count.
Contested foul. Neither side goes to the observer. And it'll go back to the original thrower, Dave Klink.
That's David Blake with the next for Dragon.
Link will tap it back in, and Dragon Thrust near the goal line to make it a 3-point game, which would match their biggest lead. Austin Lean, the top handler for Dragon Thrust. Sends it back to Klink. Looking upfield, he gives it right back to Lean. Now a red zone chance. Dragon Thrust trying to break through. Klink in the middle of the field, fires end zone and connects. James Hran with the goal for Dragon Thrust. And now 1 score away from a return trip to the national championship.
Patient end zone offense from Minneapolis. Now 6 of 8 in red zone opportunities. It's a pretty good percentage. And Hran really tough to guard when he's isolated like that in space. He's got quickness, and he's got size, and he's got sense.
And Dragon a sizable lead as we see how this non-contact sport sometimes can involve plenty of contact.
Jay Drescher became a backpack for Kevin Seeler. You know, your body always hits the ground numerous times over the course of a game. If you don't make the play, it hurts a little bit. If you make the play, no matter how hard you landed, you're usually all right.
Quite a collision there between Lyons and Bacon. Everybody seemingly unscathed so far in this one. As Dragon Thrust on their next possession will be facing game point. They'll pull to CLX here. Chad Larson Experience has kept this one close. And in the second half, despite an early run by CLX, Dragon Thrust has maintained the lead. Alyssa Gibbs up ahead, and a great catch to keep the possession alive by Blake Larson. Red zone chance for Chad Larson Experience. To the end zone they go, and a point for Blake Larson, who made that incredible grab to keep the possession. He finishes it off.
This was a remarkable grab by Larson. I don't know how he made it. It was sinking, and he bobbled it and caught it wedged between his neck and his wrist. And then a quick dump and cut right back to Larson in the end zone.
Quite a play there by Blake Larson. It might be the best play we've seen in this game.
Fired up, and with good reason to be.
That doesn't stop the fact that it's now game point for Dragon Thrust, and CLX will need a stop on defense. First to 15 wins it. Dragon Thrust setting up on offense. Ron is out there, Drescher, Dave Klink as well. The 2013 national champions, the 2014 world champions. You see the past mixed division title holders, Dragon Thrust, trying to repeat just like Blackbird did in 2011 and 12.
A lot of Bay Area power in the mixed division. Polar Bears finished 4th at the Southwest Regionals and still had enough of a resume to be considered the #1 seed coming into nationals. Clearly it wasn't Polar Bears' tournament. More and more areas of the country have been getting strong at the national level. And the folks from Minneapolis have really had a big influence in that. This would be for the game.
A huck all the way to the goal line, and it's brought down by Drescher.
I don't know how Jay Drescher made that catch. It looked like there were a couple white jerseys that had better position than he.
Jay Drescher, who continues to impress with his athleticism, just ripped right through the two white tops. Took Miller down in the process, got over Blake Larson as well. And now potentially a throwaway from a trip to the championship game tomorrow.
Just insane closing speed from Drescher. And his ability to rise up and elevate for the score and not lose, or elevate for the catch and not lose the speed.
Drescher trying to flip it into the end zone. Looking, and he does, to James Ron. Dragon Thrust returns to the national championship game. A 15-12 victory over the Chad Larson Experience. Dragon Thrust mostly led throughout. They only trailed by as many as one. And they were awfully methodical in this second half to keep the lead and stay ahead of CLX.
First of all, really well-played game by two good teams, and certainly a very different flavor than the regional final when Dragon Thrust routed CLX. But regardless of the closeness of this game, the result remains the same, and Dragon Thrust remains the king of the North Central region. And the big sequence in this game, Wayne, was when CLX did take that 9-8 lead, 3 straight out of halftime. Minneapolis called a timeout, regrouped, and were able to put together some offensive points to take care of business. The deep shots to Clark and Drescher, and certainly James Hron became more involved in the second half. Some gutsy hammers enables Minnesota to chisel its way back into the finals.
And now tomorrow they will play for the national championship game, a chance to repeat against either Seattle Mixed or Boston Wildcard. That other semifinal game in progress, as the winner of that one will play Dragon Thrust in the final tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not sure who Minneapolis would rather play because, you know, while Boston is called wild card, I think Seattle's the actual wild card. Nobody really knows what to expect from that Seattle team. They've just been winning games nonstop. Boston also pretty strong. It'll be a good game tomorrow.
Jake Henderson is the head coach of Dragon Thrust, a national championship last year, a world championship already this year, and a chance tomorrow to play for another national championship. What's this last 12 months been like?
It's been a little surreal, but it's been super fun. A ton of fun.
Jake, when you called timeout, they had just taken the league. What was the message in the huddle?
We just got to step up. I mean, we didn't think that they were going to just fold, and we stepped up. It was really cool to see.
Were the hammers this much a part of the game plan coming in?
No.
How do you feel on the sideline when you see those throws go up?
I think it takes a few years off my life. Those were, I'm glad we completed some of them. Maybe all of them, I don't even know. But we're kind of a run and gun team a little bit, so that'll happen. But it gives me a little bit of a heart attack.
Austin Lean, one of your top handlers. James Hron can really do it all. But Jay Drescher, he seems like, if anyone's the glue of this team, it seems like it's him.
Yeah, he's coming up with big plays all the time. That's what we expect from that guy, and he keeps bringing it.
And then there was the catch made down the field that set up that final score. You guys really worked the deep ball in this game. We talked about it at halftime, but you guys had 8 long-distance goals in this game. CLX only had 3.
That's a part of our game. We got great matchups. We got great throwers. I do want to give a shout-out. It wasn't just Jay. It wasn't Austin, Hron. It was our women really picked it up on theirs, too, especially defensively.
Yes, indeed.
All right, Coach, thanks a lot. Good luck tomorrow.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jake.
That's Jake Henderson, the head coach of Dragon Thrust, and a 15-12 win as Dragon Thrust advances to the national championship game tomorrow. For Evan Lepler, as I was saying, so long from Dr. Pink Field in Frisco, Texas. The final score, Dragon Thrust of Minneapolis 15, Ames, Iowa's Chad Larson Experience 12. To watch this entire game on replay, log on to watchespn.com or download the Watch ESPN app. Thank you for watching. This has been a presentation of ESPN.
Here's our Discraft Ultrastar play of the game. Austin Lean for Dragon Thrust. Absorbed the contact and then drops the hammer. Clark wide open in the end zone. Great feed to space. The defending champs with a nice goal.